What's up, Internet? I'm the Big Boss Dog, and today we're going to defeat every single boss King Dice has to throw at us on Expert. And that's really the only criteria for this challenge. Once we get into the King Dice level, only roll 1 on the dice he throws. You can use whatever loadout you want. The loadout I'm showing is just the best one I found to get through it. Now, you also don't really have to reset to try to get a good heart setup, since we're going to be going through every single level anyway, so you might as well just play whatever you get. It's not going to make a difference. Now, the first boss we're about to face off against is this trio of alcohol. The short one is going to spill over and make the ground unwalkable on for a short period of time. The martini glass will constantly shoot out olives that will constantly shoot at you. And the giant bottle of alcohol is going to shoot straight up into the sky, and it's going to come down on whatever your location is. Honestly, these three attacks are very easy to avoid on their own. The only thing you gotta look out for is when they kind of start working together. You'll get put in situations where you try to dodge the geyser of alcohol the tall one shoots out, and you accidentally get hit by one of the olive's pits that they shoot at you. Or you'll be dashing in an unlikable position, and you'll get hit by the short one's tidal wave. But after all, it is the first boss in this entire level, so it's not too terribly difficult. But you mainly need to make sure you don't lose any health here, as you're going to need all your hit points for the later bosses, especially since we're playing on Expert. Next up, on number 2, we have to fight the poker chips. Now, this fight can get pretty annoying because the only part you can actually damage is the blue stack on top, meaning you have to do a lot of dodging. You kind of have to go out of your way to hit it in the first place. It's pretty annoying. I found the quickest way to beat this boss is get 2 hits on him with a fully charged shot when he's not attacking, and then as soon as he does go into attack mode, use the roundabout advantage of facing the other direction and dodging to get some extra hits on him, although just know it won't be a lot. Another good thing to keep in mind is that the foreground is always going to hide the last chip on the bottom, so it's going to be very hard to tell whether or not you can walk under him or dash under him or slide under him or whatever, so that's something you have to be aware about as well when you're trying to dodge his attacks. Now, hopefully you guys have noticed that I haven't used my super art yet, and that's because you really don't need to. These first 3 bosses are incredibly easy, and you would be foolish to waste it if you did. However, I don't mind if you keep using it and maintain a 4 or 3 card balance, but never use your super art. It'll be a waste. Now, our last boss we have to fight before we get to our first safe zone is this Cigar Man. Now, he only has 2 attacks, shooting a fireball under and over, and shooting fireballs over and under. After he does about 2 or 3 of those, he's going to ash up and switch which side of the screen he's on, but it's not really a big deal or anything hard to deal with. The only kind of tricky part of this level is the cigarettes that'll fly in the middle. The easiest way to damage this boss is to hit him with the fully charged shots while he's standing still in one spot, and then the second he switches, go to your roundabout to make sure you do damage on him when he comes back to the other side of the stage. When he's back to the other side of the stage, switch back to the charged shot and then continue to do damage on him. Rinse and repeat this until the boss is completely gone. Assuming you don't already have the super meter built up all the way, I wouldn't recommend using any supers against him, at least with the charge shot and roundabout. They're really hard to land on him, and I don't think they're worth it in the long run. I would just use that as an opportunity to build up your super meter even further. After our first safe zone, we're going to move on to boss number 4, which is one of the hardest bosses in this level in my opinion, the Dominos. Or at least, it would be really hard if we didn't have roundabout and charge shot, because usually the difficulty in this level comes from the fact that you can't walk on most of the ground. You have to keep a constant eye on the ground on the type of die he spits at you, and the fact that he's blocking off about 1/5 of the screen. While this may feel really clustered at first and make you kind of claustrophobic, it gets a lot easier the longer you play it. This was about, I'd say my 2nd or 3rd time trying to record this level, and by the time I got to him again, it was actually relatively easy. As long as you're aware of everything he can do, the tricks are actually really simple. You only have to watch out for a select few things. Like the die that he spits out, make sure you don't run into them unless they're pink, and if they are pink, use that to your advantage to parry off of them. Overall, with enough practice, you should be able to get through that boss in no time, and then we can move on to boss number 5. If at the beginning of this level you chose not to equip Smoke Charm, you're probably going to regret it now, because this level is almost impossible to do without it. Just watch. This magical bunny only has 2 attacks. The first one, which you're seeing right now, summoning many different shapes of cards, and then the second one of the skulls surrounding you. Now the reason that's hard to do without the smoke charm is because if they don't surround you to the left or to the right, there's no way to really get out of it. Super Art 2 helps a lot as well when you get in one of those situations where you can't seem to escape the card symbols or the skulls, but you only get to use it once in this level for the most part before you kill the rabbit, so use it sparingly. Eventually, after parrying enough of the card shapes and dodging enough of the skulls, you'll finally beat this rabbit, and it's probably the best feeling boss to beat in this entire game. But again, this is my main problem with the King Dice boss fight in general. It's just a bunch of easy bosses in a row that aren't really that challenging if you know how to beat them. So there's really nothing to cover when you do the boss fights. They're really simple. They only have 1 or 2 attacks and 1 or 2 are ways to attack them. So you just end up, doing the same thing over and over again. This boss fight in particular is probably the biggest offender. It only has 2 attacks. The first one is the presents that explode into horseshoes, but if you get far enough away from them, they're easy to dodge. And the second attack is the blue phantom. The blue phantoms are at the bottom of the screen. They're one of the horse riders. See, what they do is the second they're vertical with you, they shoot straight up in an effort to attack you. But as long as you dash forward or dash backwards, you'll easily avoid them every single time. I would say the most annoying part about this boss fight is probably the foreground. It makes it incredibly hard to see anything when there's so many trees and stuff flying past you. It's pretty obnoxious. But as long as you focus and learn each and every of his attacks, all 2 of them, and what they do, you'll get through it pretty fast. You'll be able to predict which riders are going to be phantoms and which ones aren't, and also you'll know how to avoid the box pretty easily by that point. Now, for some reason, bosses 7, 8, and 9, in my opinion, are also some of the easiest in this entire boss fight. They're really, really simple, especially with the smoke charm. This lady right here can be dashed through every single one of her attacks. All you have to do is pay attention and hit Y and you'll be absolutely fine. It's supposed to be challenging because if you don't have the smoke charm, you have to parry the platforms on top to jump over her and around her. But with the smoke charm, again, all you have to do is dash through it. Also, her attack with the little roulette balls that fall from the sky aren't hard to deal with either because all you have to do for those is stand where you are, completely still, they'll come to you, and right before they touch you, dash through it. Again, easiest boss in the game, especially with the smoke charm. However, if you don't have smoke charm equipped, you're going to have a bit of a harder time with it. Just make sure you can parry those platforms okay and you'll probably be fine. Next up, we have the Magic 8 Ball. Now, the Magic 8 Ball is also extremely easy, as I said before. All it does is have pool cues that try to jump at you, but they jump in the same pattern, which is about a triangle shape, or, a right angle. So all you have to do for that is just go where they're not going to be, and you'll be okay. His only other attack is an extremely slow and predictable projectile that goes at wherever you're standing. So again, once he fires it, just step slightly to the right or the left and you'll be okay. All you have to do for this boss is literally do as much damage to him as possible to avoid spending too much time on it, because it'll drive you insane. It's just stupid busy work. Once you're done with this boss, we're going to move on to the hardest boss, which isn't even that hard. It just takes the longest amount of time and focus, but its attacks are incredibly simple, and once again, it only has 2 of them, so we'll be okay. And of course, I'm referring to the Magic Monkey of boss number 9. This is basically a crane game mixed with a memory game. All you have to do is memorize all these little cards and parry them in order. Then, once you do that, the monkey will turn aggressive and try to attack you with his cymbal claps and try to run into you. But honestly, there's nothing more to this fight than that. It's pretty repetitive and simple, so I'm just gonna skip over this part, and hopefully you guys can meet me at the King Dice himself. Alright. Okay friends, we're almost done with our low roller challenge, and this is the only part of the game where you don't have to roll a 1. After this safe zone, all you have to do is roll a 2 or a 3, because obviously if you hit start over, you just have to roll war 1s, and that just takes more time. So let's get straight into the boss fight. Following in the steps of all his lackeys, he only has one attack this time. It's a march of cards. Now, normally you can't use Super R2 every time, so all you have to do is parry the pink cards in between his sets, which isn't that hard. Just dash and parry. But remember, if you dash once in the air, you can't dash again, so make sure you don't waste it. Some other good advice for this boss fight would be don't panic when you're on this part. Just make sure you calmly hit them as, safely as you can. If you panic, you're going to take damage like that, and it's okay to bounce on the same card multiple times. But yeah, follow that simple instruction, and you should beat them in no time. And that is going to conclude our low roller challenge. All you have to do is beat King Dice on Expert by only rolling 1s up until that last part obviously, and use whatever setup you would like to. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to leave a comment about future games you want me to play or some other videos you would like to see me do. With that all being said, thank you for watching, have an awesome day. Peace.
Coming like this. What? Fantasize about the money.